775.
Is there an internal? Okay. Save it. That means Braun also does. Yours?
I can use mine.
You have one? Just before we start the Shiur, just to start the Rebbe was ma'ir that every single Shiur in Torah we connect with Rambam. And since Bashgacha Pratis today we are concluding a complete Sefer of Rambam, I thought it would be appropriate at least to start the Shiur until some people come with the last halach of today's Rambam, which is the end of not only Hilchos Havadim but the end of Sefer Kinyan. And the Rambam over there says that although according to halacha one is allowed to work with his Evet Kanani, with a non-Jewish slave, with Perek, with hard breaking labor, but that's not midas chassidus v'darkei chachma. That's not a behavior of chassidus, of lefnim mishuras adin, and it's not wise either. And he concludes and he says that even though goyim act cruel and they have azaspana, but yidden, which are the children of Avraham Avinu, and they act in the way of Torah, they have rachmanis like the Eibishter who has rachmanis. We act like the Eibishter. And somebody has rachmanis, we have rachmanis on him. Shenemar, and that's the end of Sefer Kinyan. Sefer Kinyan. I'll just say one kud of the Rebbe before we start the Shiur. The Rebbe says over here that it's mashal from the Rambam that why does a person act with a slave with a compassionate way? Because he's not only midas chasidus, but darkei chachma. It's a logical thing to do that. Because logic tells you if you're not going to act nicely to your slave, he's going to run away. Or if you're not going to act nicely to him, he won't be able to produce, to function properly, like the Rambam says in the previous halacha. But the Rebbe says it's not mistawa, that's what Rambam means, and the Rebbe brings a few rayos that the Rambam is trying to say something much more than that. The Nekuda the Rebbe says, as the Rambam brings over here, that they used to give to eat, the Chacham and the Shlit used to give their animals and servants to eat before themselves. We're talking about servants. How does animals come in here? Animals, halach, you're supposed to give your animals to eat first. So the Ram wants to explain on the contrary that logic will tell you that you shouldn't give your animals first. Who matters first? You and your family or the animals? Logic says you should give first to your family. But this is an extra level of rachmanis, beyond the normal level of rachmanis. And that's what the Rambam says you should have compassion on your slaves. Because logic says if you want him to be an Evet Knani, Evet Ivri, you're not allowed to work with him hard. Evet Knani, you want him to feel like a slave, you want him to do certain kind of jobs that you normally don't expect an Evet to do, so you treat him like a slave. That's what logic would say. But here the Rambam says, no, this is an extra special level of Rachmanis that he has. Which is why the Rambam over here is different than 3 other places in the Rambam. There's 3 other places in the Rambam where the Rambam talks about that Yidden have Rachmanis. And over here the Rambam also talks about how Yidden have Rachmanis, but he adds 2 things. He adds that we have mitzvahs on the Eibishter, and he also adds that we're like the Eibishter and the Eibishter has Rachmanis. L'chayra, the Rambam is trying to say over here that you're going beyond the letter of the law. So why is he saying that we have mitzvahs of the Eibishter? The Nekuda the Rebbe brings over here that Fakir, the Rambam says this is not the natural Rachmanis that every Yid has, that the Rambam says in 3 different places. The Yidna b'teva Rachmanis. This is a much higher level of Rachmanis they can only get through mitzvahs and through the Rachmanis of the Eibishter. The Rachmanis of the Eibishter on the one hand is Blikvul. On the other hand, the Rachmanis of the Eibishter is, the Eibishter doesn't really have Rachmim. The Eibishter doesn't have any midas. He acts in the way of Rachmanis. So this Rachmim, it's not our natural Rachmim. We act in the way of Rachmim, Blikvul, we get that from the Eibishter and from mitzvahs. The Hira, that's the Hira B'negei how we're supposed to treat our slaves. But there's also Hira for the Eibishter, that even if we're on the lowest level, which is Evet Kanani, the Eibishter treats us with Rachmim Blikvul beyond the letter of the law. And that's in the Kud of Rambam. Let's move on to what we're supposed to be doing, which is Seder Birkas Hanehnin Perek Beis Halacha Beis. And as we said last week, it's a text-based Shiur, so please follow along from the Siddur page, Reish Tes 4:17. So we're up to Halacha Beis. In the previous Halacha we learned that the Alter Rebbe's Mechadish, which is something unique to the Alter Rebbe in Siddur, not in Shulchan Aruch, not in the Luach, and not many other poskim. And throughout Perek Beis, the Alter Rebbe is going to continuously go with this Chiddush. A lot of Chidushei Dinim that are found in the Siddur and Birkas Hanehnin are based on this general Chiddush. The general Chiddush is that Minyan HaBrachis, the fact that we say in benching 3 independent brachas plus the 4th, which is the Rabbanon. Unlike ala micha, ala gefen, ala eitz, which is one composite bracha, what we call me'ein shalish, the separate counting of 3 separate brachas is a chiv d'oraisa. In Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe takes the approach that with the Reis he can manage it. Min HaTorah could have just done all 3 in one go. Here we're taking the approach, I'm trying to simplify this, but that's in general terms. That Min HaTorah, you can't just get away with ala micha, you got to do every single bracha separately. Memela, the Chiv d'oraisa, which is to say 3 brachas of benching, applies to when a person eats bread and he's full. Now, since there are a range of different types of breads out there in the market, some breads are halachically called lechem gomer, some are called lechem she'eina gomer. I once said in a shiur that I'm not going to talk about mezainis bread right now, we're going to get to it later in the Perek, just in a quick point, that the marketing of it and calling it mezainis bread, mezainis brot, lachmaniot mezainis, is a very, very smart marketing because they're not using the halachic terms. If they would call it lechem she'eina gomer, that's how they would sell it. It could be they wouldn't make that much money, and it could be people wouldn't buy it, and people would start thinking, maybe actually you're supposed to make a different bracha on this. Again, and we're not talking now about mezainis bread per se, I'm just mentioning a point. Lechem she'eina gomer is the proper name for your mezainis bread, your cake, your cookies, your wafers are all called lechem she'eina gomer, which means it's a form of bread, but it's not a bread that people normally eat when they want to make a meal. That doesn't mean it's not bread. So if you're going to eat kedei svia, which is what we learned in the previous halacha, then you're mechuyev in benching midaraisa. When min HaTorah we said minyan habrachas is also considered min HaTorah, you need to make 3 separate brachas. If you eat only your kazayis, then it's a benching midrabanan. Then benching on your regular bread is also drabanan. So Chazal, who made the rule of benching, only made that rule on the kazayis only on mainstream bread that people normally use for a meal. And therefore the nekuda that we said on last sheet, I'll repeat it again just for emphasis, that one person can eat cake and another person can eat bread. The person who ate cake is chayiv to bench min HaTorah, and the person who ate bread is only midrabanan. The chiyuv on cake could be more than bread, because the person who ate bread ate only a kazayis. Kazayis is only bench midrabanan. The person who ate the cake, the lechem she'eina gomer, what does eina gomer mean? It's not bread that people normally eat for a meal, but he ate kedei svia, so that's a chiyuv benching min HaTorah. What's the definition of kedei svia? So the Alter Rebbe said that's a shiur sheroiv bnei adam koivim sudas kva, that most people make a meal out of this when they eat regular bread. They don't this kind of bread. People don't make meals out of cake. When they're going to eat this amount of cake, that means they're making a kaviyah suda. They're making a fixed meal. But you don't normally do that with this kind of bread, cake and cookies. But with regular bread, that's the amount that people eat for their suda. What does a suda mean? Suda is kva. A fixed meal. What's a fixed meal mean? Erev and biker, morning and night. In those days, people only ate 2 meals a day. So they eat it for breakfast. That's how much bread you eat. That's how much you eat for. Well, we'll talk about that. And that's what we eat for dinner. In those days, people didn't eat 3 meals a day. So that's the definition of a kli suda, shiur sheroiv bnei adam koivim suda. That's what we learned in halacha aleph. In halacha beis, we're going to get a bit more specific. But before we start halacha beis, I'll mention that this is a story in the Gemara that Avuna once ate 13 loaves of bread. Depending on how you learn pshat in the Gemara, how much the amount was in the end, but whatever it was a very large amount. Whether it was 4 kav, a large amount of bread. And when he ate this bread, Rav Nachman came and told him, "You're done with your hunger? Adu kachna, your hunger is gone." A question if it's a question or a statement. According to one Girsi, he told him, "Adayin kafanu, you still hungry?" Cynically, obviously. Question if it was regular bread, it was pasabah bekisnin. Whatever. I don't want to go into all the different shittas in the Rishonim. This story is an interesting story. Rav Nachman told him, "No, the shiur is not how much." It's not after, obviously, Rav Huna had a large appetite at that stage. This time was after a very good shiur that he gave. So the Rav Nachman said, "Kol shacherim koivim olav suda." The shiur is, the Gemara says he ate these certain loaves and he didn't make a bracha. Pashut the Gemara is mashma afterwards. He didn't make any brachas. Gotta make something. Some people say he didn't make any brachas means Bein Nefashos. Bein Nefashos is called in halachic language not making a bracha. When it says the word mevarich v'loy klum in Gemara brachas means a Bein Nefashos. Some people say no, it means he didn't bench Birkas Hanehnin. That's all it means. But whatever it was, there was no benching there. So Rav Nachman told him, no, the shiur is he wrong. The shiur is you gotta eat the shiur shachedim koyim malav suda. I saw a beautiful pshat in one of the mefarshim. That's not that Rav Huna thought otherwise. Rav Huna felt, I want to should be full myself. He could have been. He walked away without benching. No, he was going to continue to eat more until he himself is full. And Nachman told him, "It's the shiur how much people eat for a meal." So in this Gemara, it seems pretty obvious. Everything is debatable. Everything's up for debate, especially if you start learning a bunch of different Rishonim. That the shiur has to do with you being full. Sorry, not with you being full. With what other people, not with you being full, with what other people make a Kriya Suda. The Alter Rebbe uses the Lashon Roiv B'nei Adam. The Gemara doesn't say Roiv, he says Achedim. The Alter Rebbe says no, it has to be most people eat that amount for a meal. How much is that? What's the amount? There's no amount written over here. Here again, the Alter Rebbe has a marked distinction from what it says in Shulchan Aruch and in the Luach. Like we said last week, the Alter Rebbe revised his opinion over here 3 times. Whereas in the Luach, the shiur is just one shiur. He does mention another shiur, but with a very large amount, the amount that they had for the man, which was for the man was, it says they had an oimer lagol goyla. So oimer is the same amount of shiur challah, which is the volume, like we spoke last week, the shiur's volume of 43 eggs and a fifth of an egg. Which you want to talk grams, you know, you can talk you can talk pounds, but I don't want to go into that whole discussion. But it's over 1,000 grams, that's for sure. L'chala de shiur challah. We usually measure with cups of flour over here. It's a large amount. That's how much I had for the month for 2 meals a day. So half of that, the Alter Rebbe over here used the lashon chatzi yisarin. In some of the translated Birkas Hanehnin or the user-friendly ones, it says 21 eggs. 21 eggs is not accurate because half of 43 and a fifth is 21 and a half of a fifth. It's about 21. Now, eat bread, the volume of 20 eggs is a large amount. The Gemara says, "Harei body mevurach." You eat that amount. That's healthy. You're blessed. That's the shiur that's mentioned in Shulchan Aruch and in the Luach. And the Alter Rebbe actually negates the opinions that it's a lower shiur. Over here in the Luach, in the Siddur, the Alter Rebbe all of a sudden is very all-inclusive. He takes almost every shiur in the book that says about a Suda, and they all become part of the process. They all become part of the definition of the shiur of Birkas Hanehnin. We know in Halacha the shiur for a Suda could be, like in Hilchos Eidavin it says, the amount of 3 eggs. Familiar with the word DinHilchos pras, right? Pras means a half a loaf. Why a half a loaf? The traditional way of doing it is to make 1 loaf for the day. You eat half a loaf in the morning, half a loaf at night. How much is a half a loaf? 2 shittas in halacha. The volume, again, everything works with eggs, of 3 average eggs or 4 average eggs. When you say DinHilchos pras in minutes, we just converted the amount of time it takes to eat that half a loaf in minutes. So, Gimel Beim or Daled Beim. Then we have a shiur in the Gemara somewhere else, that is shiur for a Suda, which is a very chashva Suda, Sheish Beim. And then we have another shiur that we just mentioned by the man, that their meal was half of a shiur challah, Chaf Aleph Beim, Le'erech. So the Alter Rebbe says, no, I'm going to actually incorporate all those different opinions, and everything will be part of the list. You know, if you ask a question, how much is Kriya Suda? There's not a 1-minute answer. It depends if you had this, if you had that. Everything's included. If I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, I don't know if the Alter Rebbe saw Rabbi Yaakov Emden on this, but Rabbi Yaakov Emden did the same thing like the Alter Rebbe, and he also uniquely incorporated all the various different opinions to create a shiur for Kriya Suda. all those opinions plus one other opinion that we mentioned earlier. I need to mention this before we actually start learning the Sif inside, because otherwise it won't be clear. We're talking about it, you know in advance how much you eat, and you know if you're going to be full or not. You have it all planned out. You sit down for a meal. You don't run around from one place to another while you're eating. You sit down, this is how much you're eating, and you know to measure your satiation level. You have it all worked out because you have normal routine times for meals and routine food that you eat. Very structured lifestyle where you don't eat on the go. That's what we're talking about over here. If somebody starts eating, all of a sudden he's about to become full, he's wanting to eat a little bit, he changes his mind, that's a whole other discussion. We'll have to leave that for halacha daled. Let's talk now about the simple situation, because you have to get the main halacha first. So according to this halacha, if you're going to eat even a very, very small amount, and you're going to become full, I don't know why, that's your minig, you become full even from a small amount. Shlit is that I care about Svidi day, I care even if you're full. So there's a shayla now according to the Rabbi, you're even benching minha toira, because minha brachas medaraisa. So what do you do? So I can't go tell you to go make a moitzi and bench, because we don't pass like the Rabbi. So I'll tell you to go get another piece of bread, of regular bread. On regular bread, even on the kazayas, you make a moitzi and bench, midrabanan. So take a piece of bread. Whenever you're going to be full, you take one piece of cake. And you're going to be full. I don't care how big it is. Get a piece of bread first. That's the chumras haravid. No, the ravid doesn't say to get a piece of bread. But we're worried about the ravid. I once asked Rabbi Merle, I said this story many times, that he put up a sign in one of the local stores at Kingston Avenue that it says that we suggest that before you eat the bagels, to go take a piece of bread and wash. The bagels were supposedly so-called mezainis. So I asked him, is the reason for this because of a chumrah l'bal nefesh, which we're going to be learning later on in halacha chesed, I believe it, test, about the definition of pasav baba kisnin. So Rabbi Marley told me in his very unique style, I deal with Bali Guf. He's not treating Bali Nefesh, he deals with Bali Guf, and he wrote it for Bali Guf. So what was the reason? He said very simple. The Alter Rebbe Paskins and Siddur, that whatever you eat, if you're going to be full, then it's already shayla with some so you should take a piece of bread. Whether the store complied with this psak is a separate issue, but that was his psak for the audience. They charge you for the bread, I don't know. Why is it negay after when you're eating bagels, now you're eating cake? Just practically speaking. Cake, people don't become full from cake. Bagel, the person sits down, has bagel with tuna and XL and who knows what, which we're going to learn later on in Halacha Gimel, that those things also could be included. So I only ate a small amount. It could be mezainis, mamish mezainis gomer. Not mezainis gomer, but it could be mezainis. Who cares if it's mezainis? Vada mezainis, but it's lechem sheina gomer, it's cake. You're Seveya, you already run to a shayla. The man will take a piece of bread. Once you already go up to a shiur, it's the first shiur of Suda, which is found in Alter Rebbe here. I mentioned, he doesn't mention Gimel Beim. I don't know why. In Shulchan in Luach, he throws it in. Here, he just ignored it. He goes straight to Daled Beim. For more Chashuv Suda over here. He's eating Daled Beim, which is the volume of 4 eggs, which could be, hard to say, but it could be 2-3 slices of bread. Could already be Daled Beim. Just think of cutting the piece of bread to the size of an egg. Let's say a bagel, or be more than a bagel, could already be Daled Beim. If you're going to eat Daled Beim, so now if you're going to be Seveya, you ate Daled Beim, which is already a one opinion of the Shiur Suda, and you're also full, the Alter Rebbe has no problem to make directly hamoitzi and benching of that. So to respond to the famous question, can I make hamoitzi directly on it? Very simple. Just make sure you're Seveya. Now in America that's not hard to do. In Russia, in the olden days it was hard to do, to eat and become Seveya because there was no food. But over here, people normally eat and they eat till they're full. And if they're not full, you just pay more money and you become full. You don't walk out of the restaurant until you mamish almost achila gasa. Eat that. You don't have to eat his daled bayim, which is not a lot. The volume of 4 eggs, which we said. Just think about, not weight. Look at the size of an egg, and your bread should actually fit into the cup, the same way eggs fit into the cup. Daled bayim saveya, hamoitzi directly on it. Loi saveya. So the Alter Rebbe says, no problem. Loi saveya, mizoinis, ala michya, no problem. Loi saveya, there's no ravid over here. Aye daled bayim, okay, but if you loi saveya, only daled bayim isn't the real shiur. If you're going to eat now sheish bayim, now im loi saveya, the Alter Rebbe says, then get a piece of bread. You ate sheish bayim, there's an opinion that holds that it's a kriya suda. So even though you're not saveya from it, but since one opinion says it's a kriya suda, I want you to go get a piece of bread because you ate already so much. So that's a very important chumrah. You're going to eat the amount of sheish bayim, which is not a lot. Okay, think of eggs, average size eggs. Doesn't make a difference if it's cake or wafers or cookies, and you're not saveya. I think loy saveya is not so common today, but it could happen. Whatever, I'll eat more later. Whatever. I want to go to Maidav. I want to do something else. Loy saveya, I'm already concerned of a shaila of Birkas Hanehnin, take lechem acher. If you survey, of course, you can make a moitzi directly. I said even daled bayim, you can make a moitzi directly on it. If you eat shir chatzi yasadim, which is 21.5, whatever it is, it's a very large amount. I don't care your surveyor, I don't even care how you feel. That is the official shiur that we go after shiur kaviyah suda. That is the shiur of the man. That's the real shiur. I don't know how it happened with the man, how they ate that amount. My first already asked this question. They ate that amount, not of bread. The tvur was that amount. You understand? If the tvur was the amount of chof halabim, the bread was much more. They also had meat. The first, so how did they eat that amount? And oimel gagagolas, kids, women, everybody. Some Sofer says, kreisam hoyser rechava. They had big stomachs. There's a psasich and chelech hava with the shtickle meramas to the shaila. Anyhow, but that's what they ate over there, and to eat that amount, that's a real official Kriya Suda. Now that we said all the different shurim, let's see it inside Alter Rebbe.
In the case of you're making the motzi on the mizunah, so you're washing your hands and saying,
I'll talk about that. Let's see you get inside. This is what you should do in practice. If you're going to eat the volume of 6 bayim, 6 average size eggs, until you get to the sheet, which is the sheet of Suda by the Mon. The Mon we said was half of that is what they ate per meal, which is about 21.5 and change. A large amount, a large loaf. If you eat anywhere between 6 and 21, and you're not full, okay? So you're not full. And the Rabbi says, we go after you. You're not full. 2, you didn't eat the real shiur. The real shiur is 21. That's the official shiur. Michael body. The Gemara says, Oichel body mevurach. That's healthy eating. Eat so much bread. Well, wholemeal, whatever, but that's healthy eating. You didn't eat the full amount. But since you already ate 6, which is already a certain shiur, Yivarech hamoitzi al kazayis lechem achatchila. Get yourself a kazayis of bread, make a moitzi on that bread. Since I want to be yoytze divrei hakoil, I want to be yoytze all opinions. And there is an opinion that 6 bayim is the shiur. So once you eat 6 bayim, just go, whenever you eat 6 bayim, you always have to get a piece of bread. The chatzi is sodom if you're going to eat the full amount, which is 21 bayim. But I couldn't really care how you feel. At that stage, it makes no difference that you are full, you're not full. You can directly make hamoitzi on that. This is the famous klal of vatla daito einful kol adam. That we, in halach, we have set shiurim. The set shiurim don't take into consideration how you are, which is really the mainstream halach over here. The mainstream halach has to do whatever the shiur is. What is the official shiur, the top shiur? 21 bayim, chatzi yisad. Im oichel pachas mikashesh bayim. But if you didn't eat Sheish Beim is already one a particular opinion, and you're eating less than that, you sigh eating less than 6 Beim, and you're not full, so you're not full and it's less than 6 Beim, just make Mezainis. What if you are full? Yitul Yadav, here the Alter Rebbe adds the word Yitul Yadav. I'm not sure he doesn't add it earlier, but well, we can talk soon about washing. If it's under 6 but over 4, 4 is already another shear. If you already ate 4 and you're full, then you can just make a mitzvah directly on it, which is what I normally suggest to people when they run into Hamaitzi B'zoyni Shailas. Eat Daled Beim, make Shia Saveya, and just make, you don't have to ask them for a piece of bread, which I probably, if they have bread, it's going to be Mezainis bread again. So just Hamaitzi directly on it. If you ate even less than Daled Beim, that is not really, there's no such shear. So in Shulchan Aruch it says on this, okay, less than Daled Beim, I don't care if you made a Kriyas Sudan, I don't care if you're full, but Ladaitoi. But here it says, no, these are Ivid. If you are full, you personally are full, I'm Chosh to the Shittas at Ivid, then I go after you, and therefore you have to make take a Kazayas. And that's why I said before, Rabbi Marla suggested, should always ask for a piece of bread when you're going to get some bagels for lunch, even if it's Mezainis, without going to the Shiloh now about Mezainis bread, whether they're really Mezainis or not, even if it's Mezainis, but you're not going to be full, how do you know? So get a piece of bread. Now, what about washing? So, the Alter Rebbe doesn't mention here washing except for once, when he's telling you to make directly Hamaitzi on it. Over there he mentions washing. Now that's indeed the halacha. The halacha is that if Kvi Yisuda works for Hamaitzi, if it works for Birkas Hanehnin, it works for Hamaitzi, and it works also for Netul Sidaim. Birkas Hamaitzi is only the Rabbanan. Chazal made the rule of brachas, and Netul Sidaim is with the Rabbanan. So Chazal made their rules. Hishlu Chachamim Midai Seim. They made across the board. And if Kvi Yisuda helps for Birkas Hanehnin, then it helps for Hamaitzi, and it helps for Netul Sidaim. Shloi Lachlik. Bein Pas Gemura Lepash. Any Gemura. We don't make any chalukim. You're making Hamaitzi mention the wash. So the Alter Rebbe said Yitul Yadav. But what about the case, the interesting question, where the guy is getting a kazayas of bread? The Alter Rebbe didn't go into the Shaila, hey, what about washing? Now the halacha is that in order to be able to wash with the bracha, the sheet is not a kazayas. The sheet is kaveya. So what is this guy going to do over here? So I could give you a number of different answers. I could give you an answer, he'll wash without a bracha. I'm worried about Birkas Hanehnin, that's my worry over here. So I got him to get a kazayis of bread. I don't care how much he eats. Let him eat a kazayis, let him not make a bracha. The Alter Rebbe doesn't give an answer to this question, doesn't talk about this. I could give you another answer. There's a whole spec over here, whatever. It could be that he's chayiv on the Netul Sidaim with a bracha on the lechem shein gomer, on the cake. But that's a suffix, and whatever, there's a bunch of suffixes, I'm not worried about that. Not this, he says over here kazayis, he doesn't go into the shayla. Yeah, this is halacha, bichlal benegate until sidaim yenom kebracha if you eat less than the kabeya. Over here he's telling you to get a piece of kazayis of bread. My question is, get a kabeya. I could give you a number of answers. Either, okay, so I won't make a bracha. I am eating lechem shein gomer. Okay, I'm not so worried about it. It's only a suffix. Because I'll be suffix about until sidaim. I'm not worried. Alternatively, the Alter Rebbe held you need a kazayis because together with the lechem shein gomer, it's a kabeya. I think the correct answer is the Alter Rebbe is not going through Hilchos until sidaim right now. He's just talking about Hilchos Hamaitzi Birkas Hanehnin. So what you can do for your Netul Sidaim, that you'll have to take independently. And you have to take a kabeya to avoid the Netul Sidaim shilas. But that's not the Alter Rebbe's issue over here. But be that as it may, generally, if the kviz is a proper kviz that you can make hamaitzi and benching directly on it, for sure you can wash directly on it. That's no shilah. That's one inyan. The second inyan, which needs a bit of clarification, is, what's the definition of full? We said if you're full, if you're not full. So like we mentioned earlier today people don't eat proper meals, and they don't even know in advance what's going to happen. And this halakha is assuming that you know what's going to happen. You know how much you're eating, and later we'll learn about if you are planning to change mode in the middle of meal, you become fully, whatever. That we'll learn later. Let's assume you all planned out, but I need to know the definition of the word full. And that's partially a problem nowadays also, because we eat every 10 minutes. We have a packed fridge and a full pantry. So whenever I see food, I eat it. There's no, unless you're working on a scafia. So we don't have normal times for meals we have our normal times and plus. Which creates a problem, because traditionally the definition of svia meant, I don't know if it has to mean that, but that's what it was. The person ate one meal, and at least 6 hours later, they ate another meal. When the Gemara says Mesuda means 6 hours. So does svia mean that you're so full that you don't get hungry for 6 hours? The Kamarna writes that. He's very, very machmer about this. We're all one, and machmer every single suffix Birkas Hanehnin. He copies a bit from the Alter Rebbe. But one condition, you're full for 6 hours. If you're not full for 6 hours straight, that's not called svia. Here it doesn't say the definition of what svia is. To clarify the question a bit better, in halach we have a bunch of different levels. Kazayis is called eating. The chalta, kazayis. Kabei is already somewhat called svia. How do you know the shiur of kabeya? Visavata. It's not minatoida, but it's already called, a lot of times, a proper meal is a kabeya. Even before a kabeya, the shiur for Yom Kippur is kaiseves, under a kabeya. A kaiseves, the Gemara says, makes you full. Let's say the word full. Miyasa that, it makes you calm, relaxes you. It's not a kazais, which the Rebbe has a whole sikha what that means also. Then we have the kabeya level, and then we start running it to 3 bayim, 4 bayim, 6 bayim, 21 bayim. Well, we use now different levels of numbers. To use halachic categories, we have not being hungry. We have being full to the extent that what you can eat right now is achila gasa. If somebody eats, by the way, achila gasa, the halacha is he makes hamoitzi and benching. It's called eating. When achila gasa it says nafshe shel adam nene, you still can enjoy it. Groinoi nene, your throat is enjoying it. And then we have achila shel nafshe shel adam katsa that you can't eat anymore. And then you don't make a bracha on that b'chal. No bracha rishoy, no bracha achrei. It's not called eating. So I showed you the range of levels in the definition of eating. The Alter Rebbe doesn't give you a definition over here. So it's not very clear. Lifia needs daiti, haklusha. Over here, svia means not being hungry. You're not hungry anymore. It's quench your hunger. Now, there's a lot of levels of quenching your hunger. The Rishonim already actually say this. There's svias hagarin, the svias hakeres. Kebeya is svias hagarin. Your throat feels full. Your stomach, however, still is not going to be full until you eat a shiur svia. Your stomach is full. Your stomach is full. Doesn't have to be achila gasa. The fate is not achila gasa. You can still eat. The Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch has a situation. I don't want to go into the whole pilpul over here, where a person is full, and then he ate another kazayis. And then the question is, who should bench, him or someone else? He could still eat more. Full over here means he's not hungry now. You can eat a tiny bit, it could calm you down. But then he's eating, we're talking not hungry. The definition of shiur ikul, of digestion, in halacha, where you can't bench anymore, is when you become back hungry again. So that means your suda was when you were not hungry. Now, it's also very hard because it's minor levels of hunger, major levels of hunger. How you define that exactly is so hard when our diets are so all over the place. It's very hard. But these are the halachic definitions that we find in halacha. The pashtus means we're not hungry. But because this whole thing is one big suffix, it's not clear. There's so many different shurim over here. Then, what is the klal together of svia? And then I don't even know if I'm hungry or I'm not hungry. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And if you're OCD, it makes it even harder. So that's why this whole idea of eating other foods, not eating properly in a meal, is not really a normal kind of seder. Yeah, you can eat a small amount, whatever. A person needs by Fabrengen, Shtik L'chaim, Zoinis. But a person has no way, by Fabrengen, you're not eating with L'hasbia. Fabrengen, you're eating in order to put something in your mouth for the mashke. It's not a party. That's not what Fabrengen is supposed to be. But to eat, like by a Kiddush L'mashal, when the people are very, very hungry and eat up a full meal, which Al Tereb, any house says that you're not supposed to do that before Suda Shabbos, because you're becoming Saveh before you eat the proper Suda Shabbos. And today's day and age, you have to have cholent and flesh and every single thing. And you eat every single Mekal Mina Madam, you could run into very serious problems. Never mind what we spoke right now, but even what we spoke before, the simple halacha. The guy is really Saveh, he comes home, his wife, she's not interested in his wife's food anymore. Some people have place for everything. The Gemara says a story that who it was, I don't remember who it was, he ate Abaya, and then he wiped off all the plates, and there was still plates. The Gemara used a lashon rafkel b'sum shliach. For dessert, there's always space. Okay, that's for dessert, and even that is not always. But there is such a thing. A person needs proper kedei svia. Is saveh. The Alter Rebbe says you can even a small amount. You have to make a bracha alechem acher. Just
better to make a bracha on lechem acher, or you could do it on the mezuzah people. If you're going to be full,
doesn't make a difference. No. Just two nekudas from last week still, and I just want to mention something quickly in Beis Abchira. Last week we spoke about the Shiur of Kazayis for normal bracha achrona, and the amount of time which we said is Kedei Achilas Pras. We spoke about this a bit at length last week. Just a follow-up from last week, which is a shaila which is for some strange reason has not been asked until this generation. I have no idea why. When we measure Kedei Achilas Pras, which is the amount of time that you have to eat kazayis, is it the chewing or the swallowing? Do you measure all the time that you're chewing, or only the time of swallowing? Why nobody until mamish this generation has asked this very basic fundamental question? It's a good question. There's one author that talks a bit about it, but not even about this question directly, indirectly. And as usual, because it's a modern day shaila, so contemporary poskim, disagreement akatza lakatza, and his rise from the shoyin in one way or another is mamish stronger, and each one says the other one's rise are not proper rise. It's a very strange thing. It's a mamish, a fundamental, basic question. So let's talk things that are obvious. The definition of achilas pras, which pras means, you have to eat a kazayis the amount of time it takes you to eat the pras, which we said is a half a loaf, which is either gimel beim or daled beim. Clearly, achilas pras includes the chewing. In other words, a person eats a pras, the amount of time it takes to eat a pras means the amount of time it takes with chewing. That's clear from the way it's measured. Paschitim, and the Gemara talks about different types of bread, how you measure it. It's clear that it means the chewing. But our question right now is, do I need to chew the kazayis? Do I need to swallow the kazayis in that amount of time? Can I include my chewing also in that? In other words, the kazayis, everybody's worried about kazayis matzah, although the question comes up every Friday night, every time sit by the meal, take chali, start eating salads and fish, and you could be not mechuyev in benching because you didn't need a kazayis. By matzah, everybody asks the question because they have to crash down their matzah very, very quickly. If it's the swallowing, it's very simple. Chew and chew as long as you want, and then swallow. And then, now you'll have to take a larger shear, because by the time you chew so much, your shear might have gone down a bit. A lot of stuff's left in the teeth and in the gums. Okay. People say, I don't know, it's very hard to bring proof one way or another. From the Rebbe, they want to bring proof that it means the swallowing. But the Rebbe ate for a long time, so the only way to learn Pshat is that the swallowing was within the 4 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever shear it is. Al pi seichel, it means swallowing. Because in Torah, what's the definition of achila? Blia. You could chew your matzah all day long, but you're not yotz mitzvah matzah. So, put it this way. If you're going to leave a full kazayis, For sure you Yosef, if you could chew for an hour, and if the ending can have a full kazayis, that's not a din of tziruf. We're talking about tziruf. Tziruf means you're eating in bits, and we want to join in the various different bits. So that's the best day, to leave a lot and chew it. So long as it's derech achila, it's considered normal what you're doing. On the other hand, legabe tziruf, it's mistaber loyme that le'isa chewing is kind of like we find in a lot of halachas that the chewing is haskola sa'achila. It's included in part of the process of achila. So if I want to be mitzadef, the beginning of full kazayis, it has to be from the beginning of the chewing till the end. Just going to mention one thing about Hilchos Beis Abchira. Next week we're going to learn about what about other foods joining in with your bread. That's one halacha. The other halacha we'll learn about next week is what happens if a person starts eating a bit and then wants to eat more. He started on the mazonis level and he moves up to a moitzi mid-meal. Just mention quickly about Beis Abchira. There's three chidushim of the Rebbe when they get to with that the facts that the what it says in the Rishonim don't go exactly with the facts the way we know them. One is v'negei to the cups of the menorah, where the Rebbe brings that the Rambam's picture, he drew all the cups upside down, and the Rebbe argues very strong that it was b'kavana because he did it 22 times, and he could have equally made the pictures with the cups of the menorah the other way around. He actually did it 44 times because he made two pictures. And based on that, some people want to argue with the emphasis a bunch of questions how you could fit in the Gevia and the Kaftar and Perek and one Tefach. It's only if you do it upside down. It seems to go against everything we know, but what the Rambam tells us is much more important than what we know. The second Chiddush the Rebbe says when they get to the menorah is, we all know about the diagonal, which the Rashi says there, and the Rambam writes drew like that, and the Rambam's son. Now there are opinions that say that it's round, but the Rebbe says those opinions have to stand aside on the basis of what the Rambam tells us. That now there is some evidence to the round opinion, but lately they found evidence also to the diagonal too. All the different things they dug up. The third thing we have is when to get to the luchas, which we know what it says in Chazal, based on Chazal. So even though the standard pictures are round, the luchas have to be square. That's what comes up from Chazal. And the fourth thing is the Gemara itself brings the disagreement about the facts. If by the tzitz, Kodesh Lashem was on one line or on two lines. That's one of the sikhs which the Rebbe brings, that it was a Tana that said he saw it in Rome, and it was different than what Chazal said. Rabbi Yosef. And the Rebbe brings in the Sikh from there, Benegay, to all the Megillas HaGnuzis. We find a lot of, we uncover Dead Sea Scrolls, a bunch of different scrolls. The Rebbe brings to a svara that could be when you find something, that's no evidence that's the correct one. You found it because that was the wrong one. That's why it was put aside in Gniza. Benegay to the menorah that was found by Titus, the Rebbe says, that menorah was not a real menorah, and that was made to undermine the Jewish people. And Bechlal, sometimes to draw, it's easy, you draw like this, you draw like that. We're not medayik in the tzir. The Rabbi himself, even in his picture, says about certain things he did, lahakal ala tzir, to make it easy to draw. But clearly, in terms of halachah, the halachah is that it's, Amut Shashem, that's what made the Beis Mikdash HaShlishi.